you can really influence people to get work done because you've built a strong relationship. You understand who these people are, what their strengths are, what they're struggling with, all of that other stuff. And you've secured their buy in and you communicated their part of the big picture.
Being able to be in a position of authority without the title, without the compensation, made me feel like I could provide more to the organization and immediately made me want to try harder and be the best I could. Welcome back, career advancers, to another episode of the Career Advancement Academy. Last week, we talked about leading from the middle with influence, but this week we got a brand new topic. And for episode 41, we're talking about pitfalls to avoid if you're managing in a matrix organization in 2024. Kara, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to talk to you about this because imagine working with multiple bosses, each with their own set of expectations. It can get a little dicey, I think, right?
Yeah, that could definitely get a little hairy when you've got a lot of people kind of throwing things at you. You're just like, oh my gosh, I need to manage all of this, kind of juggling the all the balls in the air.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if you're working in a matrix organization or potentially going to be working in a matrix organization, this episode is for you. So before we even get started, matrix organizations, they're very common, especially if you're in a global organization. So, Jack, what is a matrix organization?
Well, it's an organization structure where employees just report to multiple managers, typically a functional manager and a product or project manager at the same time. When you're kind of in this structure, you have to juggle tasks that are coming at you from multiple bosses, really allowing you to blend the best of both worlds with being able to drive wins from the, I guess you would say, that departmental operational function, but at the same time more cross-functionally throughout the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of takes a little bit of a special person to be able to thrive in this type of an organization. And it's not to say that you can't do it if you haven't done it before. It's just we like to make sure that you are set up for reality and for success when you are entering a matrix organization. And in fact, this is happening more and more as we are seeing corporate America change because of the fact that a lot of times work is broken into project-based work, right? That you need to get done. And now people are leading those projects. Think back to school, right? You had a project leader, you had to get that project done, but you're also responsible for your day to day tasks and the leader that you report to. And so it can get a little bit dicey when it comes to meeting those deadlines, making sure that that project gets done on time, under budget, et cetera, meeting those deadlines, but also managing your day to day tasks and the projects that you have in your functional operational team. And how do you manage that, especially when you feel kind of pulled in two different directions when you're reporting to do two different people? So what we realize and what we want to make sure that we're telling you is that in a matrix situation, clarity is key, communication is key, and a couple of other things are key here. And we want to go over some of those soft skills and tactical tools in order to help you succeed in that. Because we want you to be in a win win solution in your career where you're thriving, you're growing, and not feeling stressed and burnout, right?
I love it. I think really being able to understand the benefits of being in that type of situation is going to be huge, and also what skills you need to be able to thrive in that type of environment will really help our audience feel more comfortable if they do find themselves just in that type of situation.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what are some of the benefits of working in a matrix organization? Let's talk about the benefits of it because there are some really great benefits of being in a matrix organization where you're working with multiple teams. Speaking of better teamwork, right? Cross-functional collaboration. You're working with multiple teams across the organization. Why is this so exciting? Well, I've worked in a lot of companies where it's completely siloed, right? And being in that matrix organization, it breaks down those silos, and you get this opportunity to work on projects with different departments, different organizations within your organization. And this is a huge benefit. Why? Because instead of just being siloed into your department, learning what's going on in your department, you get to see how does that department work? How does this department work? What are they working on here? And depending on the transparency and openness of the people that you're working with, you get to see how these departments all roll up to working on that organizational goal. Why do you want to do this? Well, the more that you can get information on how different people work in different departments, it's going to increase your capacity and your strategic thinking and seeing how all of the, for lack of a better term, puzzle pieces work together in order to create a whole. One of the, in my opinion, one of the kind of limiting parts of someone's career is continually working in a siloed organization where you get really, really good at what you're doing, but you're not able to see how your puzzle piece works with every other puzzle piece. That limits your strategic thinking, it limits your innovation and your creativity. And so, being in a matrix organization where you get to kind of see all of those different sides, it really helps you thrive and become more strategic and collaborate with other people and have build up those social and emotional skills by working and collaborating with different people.
I think another kind of thing to add on to that, Kara, is really the other skills that you get, the actual technical skills, the hands-on skills from doing that with those other individuals across departmental collaborations really allows you to get some wins under your belt that you wouldn't get in your silo. And that might open you up to more opportunities moving forward, potential new roles, potential leadership positions, because you're getting this experience and the seasoning, if you will, in these different areas of the organization. It also really helps when you're in this type of situation, if we can have very, very clear goals so that everybody is focused on those same targets. It is so huge to have that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the other benefits for you in particular is that you now get more face time with more leaders across the organization, right? So if you're a high achiever, like most of our listeners are, you get the chance to, for lack of a better word, to show off, right? You get to show off and show your incredible skills by working with different leaders in the organization. This is how a lot of people move up in their organizations, get more projects, get, like Jack said, train on different skills by cross collaborating and working with other people who can kind of train you on different skills. Maybe you're in HR and you get to work on a tech project, and now all of a sudden you're learning how to implement systems. That's what happened for me, right? I got to learn some cool tech skills by working on systems implementation. But not only that, I got to really collaborate with the senior leaders in tech and get to know them, and they got to trust me a lot more too, right? So that's just one example in my own world. But by really getting to have that FaceTime, collaborate, ask those strategic questions, and work with senior leaders at other places, when a promotion comes up or a potential new project comes up, they're going to remember you because of the fact that they've been able to work with you. They know your name, they know your face, and they know your abilities as well.
Kara, is it all good things though in a matrix organization? Is it all just sunshine and roses? It's the perfect ideal structure, or are there some potential challenges and hurdles that are going to be faced?
There are some challenges. Of course there are, right? The biggest challenge out there is dual reporting lines, right? So when you're reporting to more than one leader and you're receiving directives, think about your day. If you're, let's pretend we're going back into the office or even working from home, and you sign in and your functional leader is like, "Hey, we have a priority that needs to get done today." And then something maybe blows up on the project and your project leader is like, "Oh my gosh, this is critical. We need it." Now you're going to feel like you're being pulled in two, and you don't know necessarily which one to go attack, right? Or to go spend your time on. This dual leadership reporting line, it can also send some mixed messages, right? It can lead to a little bit of misalignment. And if you're not necessarily the most skilled in time management, prioritization, or executive communication and collaboration to ask for help when it comes to managing up, which we talked about 2 weeks ago, that's going to be really hard for you, right? It really comes down to that executive communication skills in order to manage up and ask for help when it comes to it. And not a lot of people feel comfortable doing that. And I'm here to tell you, it is absolutely your right if you get stuck in that kind of situation to ask for help from your leaders and explain the situation because sometimes your leaders don't know because they're busy doing what they need to do.
Kara, I have to bring something up that I actually just had a conversation with a potential client with earlier today, who's in a matrix organization. And one of the challenges she has is that the leadership didn't delineate clear boundaries
Mm.
on how work it gets done. And it's kind of created this dog eat dog mentality where they kind of just throw projects into a pool and then everybody kind of has to almost bid and kind of race to get to it first, and whoever gets to it first wins. And it's kind of creating a lot of stress because you've got people kind of just like not necessarily doing their job as efficiently, but just kind of sitting in that portal waiting on that thing to come across so that they could just be first to it and then get all the accolades because they're the one who actually had that project and is driving those results. Do you see that that could potentially be an issue as well?
Absolutely, that's an issue. In my mind, that speaks to a very toxic culture for that organization. And here's the reason why, right? Healthy competition is always a good thing, right? It's always a good thing when it's healthy because people like to constantly improve, right? Continuous improvement is always a good thing, especially when it comes to supporting each other, celebrating wins, trying to be better than yourself every single day and doing it in a supportive environment. But when you're creating a dog eat dog environment that is continually competitive, where it's creating this race to bid on projects and not supporting people's strengths and continuing improving on their weaknesses and allowing that continuous growth, it's just going to create tension within those teams, right? And so in that organization particular, and I don't know what it is or who it is, I would suggest some leadership training and some changing of that culture to be a little bit more intentional in that project delegation, right? Because who's to say if you're allowing people to bid on those projects, you're probably not getting the right people on those projects. You're just getting the fastest people on those projects. That doesn't mean that you're having the right talent on those projects. So, in my opinion, we might need to have some process improvement or changes on how those projects get delegated out.
I love that. I think that is really key. And I'm really glad you brought that up because I think so many of us kind of feel like we're stuck. Hey, okay, there's no power, there's nothing I can do here. But really, what you're kind of saying is that using strategic communication and really going to our boss, we can actually, going back to the last week's episode, manage up to get those things implemented so that we can have a better, more robust and healthy organizational structure.
Yeah, and in fact, let's talk about what we were going to talk about next, which is leadership and influence within a matrix, management sort of organization. One of the biggest keys to being a leader or an individual in a matrix organization is being adaptive, right? So, using
Mm.
the example that you just said, if I were in a leadership position in that organization, I would try to encourage adaptability in my leadership team, and I would have to be adaptable myself. Really, what adaptability is it's being receptive to change and seeing where change needs to happen, right? Why this is such a big deal is, right now in that organization, what's happening is not working, right? Clearly, your potential client is unhappy and talking to us because she wants to leave. It's clearly that's happening across the board, right? People are not happy. There's not a lot of engagement. Probably the only people that are happy are the fastest ones, right? That are bidding on this. So being open to change, being ready to listen, and being capable of leading by influence rather than that authoritative way is going to be the most impactful way to kind of influence change, right? The other part of that is really seeing, like, hey, what's working and what's not working. And that's going to include getting information from the people all around you, right? From the individual contributors all the way up to those leaders, and figuring out, hey, is this going to work for us? Is it working? And if not, what needs to change? And getting buy-in from the people that are actually doing the work so that they can feel engaged and bought into the change so that they can move forward, right? So really driving that success through being adaptable and being willing to make some changes and going throughout that.
It's really cool that you kind of said that, because it kind of goes in line with this reel I saw from Simon Sinek
Mm,
just the other night, where he was talking about how he prefers his organizations to have either quarterly or reviews every, say, 6 months as opposed to yearly, so
yeah.
that the leaders can better understand what people are working on, so that they can adjust business operations to better take advantage of what's actually happening within their teams.
Yeah.
So I really love that.
Yeah, I think that that's great. I think a lot of times, especially in a matrix organization, if you are a leader, sometimes you don't know what your people are always working on the day to day. So I encourage having regular check-ins, whether it's weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, or quarterly, so that not only are you understanding what are the projects working on, how do they relate to the bigger organizational goals and how they roll up to it, but also what does your team members really care about when it comes to their career? And is what they're working on aligned with that, right? Because at the end of the day, if you have a team member who doesn't really care about becoming a leader at all, really just loves being a functional player that just wants to come in and do their stuff, but you're continually putting them in a project management role, you're going to burn them out, and they might not necessarily be in the best position that you continually put them in, and you're going to lose them, right? And on the reverse, if you have someone who is just dying to be a leader, wants to lead people, is influencing with that without that authority naturally, and you're withholding the ability of putting them on projects or putting them in a position of coaching them up into that leadership role, you're going to lose them there, right? Because you're not allowing them to grow in the long term. And so having those check-ins, not just on the day-to-day, the short term, but also the long-term goals of your employees is going to help you align what they're working on now so that you can not only keep them engaged, but retain them in your company as well and keep them productive.
You mentioned this influencing without authority.
Mhm. Influencing without authority. Why I keep talking about this is because sometimes, right, when you are a matrix manager, you're managing a team, right? A project team, but you don't have that actual direct authority, such as doing people's performance reviews or putting them on a performance improvement plan. And so you have this authority over your project team, but not necessarily the full authority to make a decision to keep or not keep them if they're not doing their work. And so it's a difficult situation to be in if you're a project manager in a matrix organization. And so, how do you get people, for in complete layman's term, how do you get shit done? Right? When
Mhm.
you are not necessarily the authority manager, right? Really, it's about creating this environment where you can persuade and align your stakeholders using your influence around common goals, right? Even when you don't have that direct control, right? And so, some techniques in order to gain that buy in, right? Because what we know and what we're going to tell you right now is that people are so much more willing to do work or adapt to change when they're bought into it. When you force change on someone, an employee, or you tell them what to do without securing their buy in and getting them to agree to it, there's so much more resistance to it. And it's going to be a really hard road, right, to get that done. So, in order to kind of gain that buy in as a project manager or as that matrix manager, is to start building those strong relationships, right? How do you do that? You get to know the people, right? At the end of the day, we're
Mhm.
all humans. We don't check our personal lives at the door when we clock in. So sometimes we have good days, sometimes we have bad days, Sometimes we have bad hair days like I'm having right now. Like it just is what it is, right? And so we all are humans, and understanding that we have humans that have strengths, we have weaknesses, we have good days, we have personal lives, we have all of that other stuff. And we have this innate ability to understand and buy into things if we are taught to understand it, right? But just being told is that natural resistance to not, right? So the next part of that is really understanding your team and your stakeholders' needs, right? So one, you're doing a project for a reason. So what is the reason? What are your stakeholders' needs, right? So, what do we need in order to get this project done? What are the requirements? What are the deadlines, the budgets, et cetera? And then what does your team need from you to succeed, right? And then communicating the benefits of why you're doing this project, communicating how it rolls up to the big picture of the organization and the company so that people don't just feel like they're coming in as like someone working on a widget. They're actually feeling like they're making an impact to the greater picture. And this is how, even if you don't have that direct report relationship, you can really influence people to get work done because you've built a strong relationship. You understand who these people are, what their strengths are, what they're struggling with, all of that other stuff. And you've secured their buy in and you communicated their part of the big picture.
I couldn't agree with you more. I remember a time where I was kind of tasked to train some leaders that were going to be working overseas in a matrix organization. And my job was not, I wasn't in a manager position,
Yeah.
but because I was so good at my individual contributor role, my managers realized my potential of being able to transfer my knowledge, my ability to do my role to others that are going to be doing similar things. And so they trusted me to train the manager. And that got my buy in. Being able to be in a position of authority without the title, without the compensation, made me feel like I could provide more to the organization and immediately made me want to try harder and be the best I could. So I completely agree with you there.
Yeah. So, how do you do this? How do you manage, right, and be a leader and influence people to improve teamwork and efficiency successfully? Yeah, tell us.
I think successful leaders and really individuals within an organization who can influence others can really focus on improving that teamwork and the efficiency by managing themselves first, by being in control of who they are, how they're feeling, their emotions. And once they can do that, they raise their level of emotional intelligence, and that allows them to create better relationships and then have smoother collaboration in this matrix organization.
Mhm. Emotional intelligence is one of the most critical skills for leaders. It absolutely is. And emotional intelligence is really being self aware of what your emotions are, being able to control your emotions instead of allowing your emotions to control you, and to understand that the emotions of other people and not allow that to affect you, right? I'm gonna just take this moment to pause and just let you know that after next week's episode, we're going to be taking a break. Season one of Career Advancement Academy is going to take a break, and we will be coming back for season two later. Please make sure that you are subscribed to the Career Advancement Academy podcast so that you are alerted when we come back for season two, and make sure that you are subscribed to our Optimized Career Solutions YouTube channel, where we will still be putting out videos so that you can get some great tips and videos and best practices to advance in your career. When we come back, though, we will be diving into things like emotional intelligence, positive intelligence, and things like that so that you can become a better professional and better leader and a better self leader as well. But emotional intelligence is one of the most top, highly desired skills because it is a tough skill to manage. A lot of times we just let our emotions control us, right? And so that is one of those things. And if emotional intelligence is something that you struggle with, let us know in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube. With that being said, really practicing active listening and being empathetic to your team members and what they're struggling with is not only going to allow you to focus not just on the what of the task, but the behind it too, right? Why are they doing the task and why are they potentially struggling? And it will help you also align the right people to the right goals, right? Goal alignment is really critical, and team alignment is critical in a matrix organization. When team goals are aligned to the company objectives, that's where the magic happens, right? That's where productivity soars. That's where people, like we said before, um, are bought in, right? Because they can see how their impact really affects the big picture. And when people feel aligned in their roles where they know that their strengths are being used, where they're learning new skills, where they know that they're making an impact, where they feel productive, well, productivity actually rises, engagement rises, and people, the team dynamics are a lot better, right? They're more aligned. And so when your team understands and they feel valued and that you're being empathetic and they can come to you and tell you when they feel misaligned, it allows you to have a more zoomed out perspective. It allows you to redirect and it allows you to make sure that you're on track and meeting those organization directives.
I really love that. I think sometimes we can get so caught up in the small details, the individual fires that happen, and that can sometimes make us feel some sort of way. It can cause emotions to flare, and not being able to manage those emotions in that heat of the moment, so to speak, can really cause a lot of disconnect and breed just distrust within a department or organization if it's not managed correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was a little bit of an overview of matrix management. Why it's so exciting to be in a company with matrix management is you can learn some incredible skills. You get to learn more about the organization, you get to cross collaborate with more people, you get to potentially gain new information on how the organization works and increase your strategic thinking. However, being in a matrix management organization means that you need to be adaptable. You have to have excellent communication, have the ability to manage up and influence others. And most importantly, you have to have that emotional intelligence to kind of check those emotions at the door and be able to be adaptable and work with other people, right? One of the best parts about matrix management is you get to really see your impact at a greater level and how it rolls up to an organization. Like Jack mentioned, not every company has the matrix management under lock and key, right? They have it kind of a little bit messed up, and that's okay. That is okay because some organizations are still trying to figure it out. But that's the reality of corporate America and being in a job search or advancing in your career is that some organizations are great for you and some of them are not great for you. And what your job is in your career is to find the organization that is in alignment for you, where you can thrive, where you can grow, learn more, and continuously improve and advance in your career in a way that helps you feel fulfilled and make an impact, right? Where you can have a great career, but even better, a great life, right? And that's what we're here to help with. And if you need any support whatsoever, in maybe exiting an organization that's not in alignment for you and finding one that is, well, that's what we're experts in. We've written over 5,000 resumes. I'm SPHR certified. And together, Jack and I, we've reviewed over 500,000 resumes together through my corporate recruiting experience and through the 5 years that we've been in business. And we would love to review your resume and help you find a role which you are aligned with. We offer free career success sessions with myself or Jack, and you can book one now at www.optimizecareers.com. As a reminder, as of next week, the Career Advancement Academy podcast is taking a break and wrapping up season one. Make sure you stay subscribed so that you are prepared when season 2 comes back. And also make sure that you subscribe to the Optimized Career Solutions YouTube channel, where we will continue to put out videos every week throughout our break. And you can make sure that you're getting tips and best practices to advance your career. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.